Hi everyone, my name is Stas, and today I'm going to tell you about the plot of the 2008 film called New Earth, in which prisoners from Russia and the USA took part in an unusual experiment. The film starts with a man slowly walking over the snowy rocks, and carefully. It seems like he is on some kind of island. Suddenly he steps on something. He rolls down the slope and falls into the cold water. After getting out, he continues on his way. Next, the plot of the film shifts to the past. We see a high-security Russian prison. The inmates are brought into the warden's office one by one. They are asked questions about their lives before prison. They ask about their desires and plans for the future. After receiving their answers, each of them is offered the chance to participate in an experiment that will allow them to gain their freedom. Naturally, everyone, to whom did you do such a generous thing? The offer was accepted, but none of them had any idea what awaited them ahead. Next, the participants of the experiment are taken to a closed hold of the ship. Among the dangerous inmates is a former pilot named Ivan Zhilin. He's also a criminal, but unlike the others, you don't want to judge him. He took revenge on the air traffic controllers who were responsible for the death of his family. In the hold, a prison atmosphere quickly formed, filled with cursing and noise. Almost all the inmates split into two groups. At the head of each group stood a well-known authority figure. Zhilin chose not to participate in this process and stayed on the sidelines. Suddenly, a fight breaks out, and Ivan is forced to take part in it to protect his life. The fight between the two groups is interrupted by the guards who start shooting. After a while, the ship with the inmates arrives at its destination. This place turns out to be an uninhabited northern island. Here, the participants of the experiment will have to create their settlement from scratch. But before that, they will have a briefing from the project organizers. They explain that all the inmates will have the opportunity to return to prison. Not far from the shore, there's a buoy with a transmitter that has a button on it. All you have to do is press this button and provide your name and relevant information. In addition, you can use this device to call for help. After that, the organizers leave several boxes with supplies and a pile of handcuff keys. Once they sailed to a safe distance, the inmates were allowed to free themselves. The crowd of inmates immediately rushed for the keys. Everyone was getting in each other's way, pushing and hitting. Zhilin decides to stay on the sidelines again. When a pause in the fight occurs, some of the inmates start offering themselves as leaders, but nothing comes of it, and the fight continues again. In the first few minutes of the experiment, many inmates suffer serious injuries or even fatalities. People disable the transmitter to prevent interference, so that no one can interfere with those who have seized power. When the fight stopped and everyone was freed from their handcuffs, the survivors moved deeper into the island. Somewhere out there, spacious communal houses are waiting for them. Ivan is gathering supplies and moving away from Laderi. The man realizes that staying among the prisoners is unsafe. Zhilin explores the island in search of a secluded spot where he can live on his own. After a while, he finds a suitable spot and stops there to rest. Next, Ivan takes out a photo of his deceased family and falls asleep. When the man wakes up, he sees that his supply bag has survived an attack by local rodents. Suddenly, the man hears footsteps. Soon, a young guy named Nikolai appears from behind the rocks. Nikolai asks Ivan to stay with him, as the power struggle among the prisoners has started again. Zhilin agrees but warns that he doesn't trust him and will keep a close eye on him. The next day, the man decides to explore his part of the island. They tried to catch fish, but they didn't succeed. Soon, they come across an old seaplane that could take off after some repairs. In the following days, the hermits face problems with food and firewood. Realizing that they can't survive together, Ivan suggests going back to Leda, but Nikolai disagrees. So Zhilin decides to take extreme measures, specifically to stealthily steal coal from Leda. In the prisoner community, Monkey took charge. Workers and others separated. The unpleasant man established strict rules. Those capable of working were moved to one half of the camp, while everyone else was placed in a separate barrack surrounded by a fence. Every day, a group of weak and frail people goes out for a walk, and afterwards they play a game called Last One Standing is Dead. The essence of the game is that at the signal, everyone must return to the building. The one who ends up last becomes dinner for everyone else. When Ivan and Nikolai approach the camp, they find a smoldering fire with leftovers. Nikolai immediately starts looking for edible parts, while Ivan, warmed by the fire, falls asleep. Soon, the prisoners arrive and catch the two hermits off guard. The monkey orders Ivan and Nikolai to be participants in the next game. The next day, the game begins with Zhilin. The man persuades everyone to refuse to participate in the game. They report this to the monkey. Ivan proposes a deal. He will show the found plane to the prisoners, and the monkey will allow them to go to K, to the transmitter, and cancel the Hunger Games.
Да, господин Жилин. Самолет. Это хорошо.
The authority agrees to the terms. When Ivan sails away from the shore, the monkey breaks the rules of the deal. Zhilin is unable to fix the transmitter. Upon returning, he decides not to tell the truth. In light of recent events, the prisoners decide to overthrow the monkey. When the former leader dies, no one dares to take control into their own hands. Tolya, nicknamed Locksmith, who killed the monkey, declares that he is now in charge, despite the fact that the new leader has actually become Zhilin. Ivan decides to tell all the prisoners about the plane, after which he adds that there is indeed a chance to leave the island. At the same time, the prisoners are waiting for the food supplies, which are still a few weeks away. The prisoners are moving parts of the plane to the new hangar, where the repair and assembly begin. Suddenly, the organizers of the experiment arrive. Zhilin, as the most important one, is invited to the management tent. There, he is being interrogated about the recent events. Ivan manages to convince everyone that everything is fine on the island.
Что вы делали так далеко от лагеря?
Мы ходили туда ловить рыбу.
They were fishing.
That's not true.
Before leaving, he asks for a supply of gasoline to survive the coming winter, and then hands over the prisoners' letters. The American Commission leaves the island, leaving behind a large supply of food. In addition, a new group of prisoners arrives on the island, this time from an American prison. The criminals in orange jumpsuits are behaving much more calmly.
Hey, asshole!
Zhilin tried to establish contact with them, but nothing worked. As soon as their hands were freed, a bloody fight breaks out between them. The number of casualties among the prisoners is rising, and all the buildings are starting to burn. The observers, noticing the chaos, decide to stop the experiment and eliminate all the prisoners. Gunfire begins, after which only 4 people are left alive. An unknown blonde, Tolya the mechanic, Nikolai, and Zhilin with a head injury. The men quickly roll out the assembled plane. Nikolai helps push the car and then he leaves. The guy decides to stay on the island to protect people from his violent tendencies. Standing at the highest point of the island, he began to watch the plane. Zhilin takes the controls and starts to take off. Everyone is happy to leave this island. Unfortunately, their path lies over an American ship. Gunfire opens up from the deck. The bullet pierces the plane through and through. Ivan gets a facial injury while the passengers die instantly. Despite this, Ivan continues to gain altitude and fly towards freedom. This is where the movie ends. We have a rather sad film in front of us, which tells us that almost all prisoners are dangerous and should remain in prison. Of course, there are exceptions like Ivan Zhilin, but there are very few people like that. At the time of this summary's release, this film has a rating of 6.6 on IMDB. How would you rate this film? Be sure to write your thoughts in the comments. That brings us to the end of our video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you found it interesting, then definitely support this video with a like, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our new episodes. Well, this was Stas, who is already preparing a new summary for you. Stay healthy, watch only good movies, and play only good games. Good luck to everyone, and goodbye.
Can't you count them from outer space?
If you understand English, why the hell don't you speak it?
Tony, shut up.